Hello, welcome back to ASEAN Breakfast Call. We have a session for ASEAN Breakfast Call dialogue with one of our fellow friends here. He's a social entrepreneur, KV Sund, who has won a lot of awards in the past as well. And his times, we're talking about 1990s, the .com times, where he actually started a company, a tech startup himself, and it got mentioned on Fortune magazine in the 1999 issue, talking about how it is Asia's most hopeful e-commerce venture to succeed, and winning a lot of awards then at OracleOpen World to be the star of e-business and Enterprise50.com awards, Internet Company of the Year, and Best B2B Internet Site. So, hi KV, are you on the line with us?
Hi, good morning. I didn't know we had that many awards, but thank you for reminding me.
Well, some time ago, right? 1990s. I feel that we have
I'm that young.
We have one of the, let's say, elder generation of tech startup entrepreneur, and we have the new young guys here. Wai Hong.
Oh, hi. Yeah.
Hi. So I think it's pretty cool to be able to share, this talk on social entrepreneurship with people from the tech startup scene from different generations. Maybe we'll get some different insights, or maybe it's a similar kind of experience or whatnot. But let's discover it together. Yeah. So, but for the benefit of some of our listeners who have not heard of the term social entrepreneurship, KV, can you tell us what it is?
Well, I think there are several definitions for social entrepreneurship. But if you go on the internet, you Google it, you find lots more interesting definition. But what I want to share is what I feel it is. Right? To me, social entrepreneurship is about the expression of the goodness and compassion in someone that takes it to a business level, right? And sharing that compassion to help people build sustainable way of life. Mm-hmm. I think that's my personal introduction to social entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what I mean is that I think a lot of people start off by want to make money, or what they call this, try to make it in life first, right? There's this belief that we are brought up by our parents to say, well, make money first and go help others, right? To me, social entrepreneurship is helping others at the same time they make some money. So we are talking about one aspect, which is called economic sustainability, right? Mm. So this is one thing, right? So when you put the element of compassion and goodness into economic sustainability, you bring about two other sustainabilities, what I call social sustainability and environmental sustainability. Social sustainability means a positive lifestyle, decent life, wherever you are, and sustainability to environment and harmony. And so, social enterprise, in my opinion, is keeping the balance of these three things: social, economic, and environment, driven by compassion.
Right, and I think this ties into the bigger topic about alternative economics as well. So briefly, what is that about?
Again, there are a lot of definitions of alternative economics. I think a lot of people who are concerned are starting to question the value of economic system. Mm-hmm. For example, let's look at kids today. Many kids, even in school, they are taught to be consumers. They taught, number one, be successful, make money, be rich. Mm-hmm. Secondly, buy this and buy that. You can only be successful if you have this, have a big house, you buy this brand of watch. You become consumers. Mm-hmm. So people who are concerned and who start to think deeply about life itself, about the world we live in, are very concerned that happiness is being defined by just having things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and our economic policies and strategies today is based on having things, based on demand, and based on consuming, right? The ability to sell more, the ability to consume more. So if a country or an economy consumes more and able to generate more consumption, then that's a definition of a good economy. And you know that a lot of people are concerned this is ruining lives. So there's a lot of thinking today about something a little bit different, something less consumption-driven, something more inward-looking, and something more sustainable, and something that brings more happiness without having things. So in that definition, that's a broad perspective of looking at alternatives, right? So there are questions being asked, and people who try to put these questions into practice, in my opinion, is alternative economics, right? Whether it exists or not, or how well it exists is something that needs to be examined.
Right. I think that this alternative economics, it's also very widely promoted in the concept of gross national happiness that's championed by Bhutan, who has implemented it in its own country, talking about how they think that we should measure success of each country beyond the gross domestic product, GDP, and we should consider gross national happiness and the Happy Planet Index, how which actually ranks countries, giving them a grade based on the extent that these countries can produce long, happy, and sustainable life for their citizens. I think the measurement that they are proposing is based on not just life expectancy, but on the ecological footprint as well. So countries where life expectancy is high, but the ecology footprint is also high, receive a low score on this Happy Planet Index. Whereas the social entrepreneurship that I have found that our friend KV is addressing is also pursuing innovative business solutions to social problems, which in our earlier news article, we were reading about the Cambodian stories. I think that the arsenic poisoning and whatnot could be a potential opportunities for social entrepreneurs to seek for opportunities to improve the life of their communities, solve these problems, and also make some money in order to sustain their business and continue to change lives for many people as well. So business entrepreneurs typically measure performance in profit and return, but social entrepreneurs take into account of a positive return to society, which I believe are things that Wai Hong and also KV talk about in their concept and mind of what they think entrepreneurship should be. Yeah, right. What do you think about social entrepreneurship? Like, do you define what you do as a social entrepreneurship?
Oh yeah, I really like what KV had to say about social entrepreneurship. It's just saying I really like what KV was saying about social entrepreneurship and how it really comes from, I guess, from the inside, right? It comes from an intention to see good happen, while at the same time build sustainability into the businesses the structures that we set up, and into actually the vehicles that we use to actually make this good actually come about. Making sure it's profitable at the same time as carrying out the mission of what it's set out to do. So I really do think it's a really great definition of seeing it as coming from the inside.
KV, maybe you can share with our listeners how do you personally got into entrepreneurship?
That's a really tough question. I can ask questions in economics, but this is a tough one. I think it's more of the feel. Two things. Number one, when I go into business, we went through this process of chasing a bigger dream of lots of money in our pockets, And I did share with you during the time that we started our businesses, we reached a point where we saw and felt money in such a great amount that it kind of shocked me. We were raising funds to the tune of $15 million US, and that was to me staggering, And there was a thought in my mind that do we really need that much money? And I saw people in front of me that were landed with money, so much money, and their lives changed. Not in a good way, They became more consumer person, And over the years, I had children, and I kind of reflected on what kind of life they will have, and that got me going through a series of thinking and thought process to evaluate my whole value system, and then the value system of people around me, right? And I felt that there's something more than just the money. And by the way, if you have something extra, go do good, put a donation box or start a foundation or something, right? I know deep inside is something much, much more than that. So that's what drove me to explore different alternatives. I visited many countries. I went into meet people that were less fortunate than we were, try to understand their problems. And I saw it as not just someone who's poor or people who don't have enough opportunity, but structurally, in our society, structurally, people who are poor continue to be made poor because of the social structure.
Cycle of poverty.
Cycle of poverty, social structures, and to some extent, the way the current economic system is being built and maintained. So that got me thinking a lot, and that gradually moved me to begin thinking and implementing social aspects to business. But at that time, I think a lot of people were starting to talk about social enterprise, social entrepreneurship. So I guess we just flow into that, to that discussion and to that discourse. And here I am. And I just started a social enterprise in Malaysia. So I really want to spend a bit more time, or really much more time, to build this up. Yeah.
So I believe what drives you is a kind of empathy with others, and also an interconnectedness with others, regardless of what their current condition is, whether rich or poor. You feel that even the rich are not necessarily on top of the clouds, and the poor, of course, could be helped in many ways. Yeah, is that what drives you?
Yeah, this is what drives me, and it's interesting. Let me share you a conversation I had with some friends, okay? I think the social enterprise, even to some extent people say charity business, we tend to look at, inverted commas, poor people who are in the rural areas and all that, right? But if you really look at social enterprise from the structural, economic, and social structural perspective, it's not just about where you are, right? It's about understanding the structural needs, how economic structure and social structure is starting to destroy people. Someone came to me one day and said, one of my teachers, right, from the US is, don't think about helping people means to poor areas. So he gave an example of one of the richest place in the United States. And they had this problem. Their problem was the young generation of those people who live in the richest place in the United States, their grandparents worked very hard to make it. And the younger generation squandered away their wealth and lost all their, sense of values. And there's a big argument between these generations. So they asked me, can social enterprise address these issues? Mm-hmm. And it got me thinking about the value of social enterprise. And this is something that we all need to think about. If we are going to embark on some level of social entrepreneurship, to think about things like this. So what came out of this was, well, possibly we can start a small enterprise to do tours and take these people to India, for example, and have them spend time there to understand and appreciate life, and bring them back, right? So, it may not be the best business. I'm just sharing an example that we need to rethink a lot of things when we think about social enterprise and social entrepreneurship.
Right. I think that some of these are also what you're trying to achieve through Spirit of Endeavour, something that you started.
Yes, I am. I'm lucky to have people back us up in this project, right? So if I can do a little bit of marketing, right, I think the top of the line is fundraising. And fundraising, I mentioned at the top, is not the most important because everybody thinks you need money, right? But what they really need is two other things. Number one, what is the social structures or social issues we aim to overcome? I think that's the first thing we want to educate people to understand. So at least those to come in touch with us. And once you understand the social situation or the social challenges we want to address, we find ways to address that. And after that, you apply principles of entrepreneurship, principles of business around it. That's where our real value is, the next part, which is mentoring, helping these individuals or groups of individuals think through things like this, then put in the business model around it. Mm-hmm. So another way of putting it is, don't think of the business model first. Think of the social structural issues we want to address and understand it well. So these are some thoughts I'm sharing with you to give you a perspective of what I think social enterprise is. And it's something that we have it in us all to try to grow independent social change. Okay.
So, to the best of your knowledge, Wai Hong and also KV, how is the current scene for social entrepreneurship in Malaysia, Southeast Asia, or even Asia currently? Maybe we will start with Wai Hong, or
sure. I think it is like, as KV says, a very much misunderstood term. Social entrepreneurship, by virtue of the word social, implies to a certain degree charity. And in truth, actually, there are many examples of social entrepreneurs and a business, social entrepreneurship, examples where the business model is actually incredibly profitable. For example, Kiva, which is a micro-lending, organization, which basically crowdfunds its source of income, and then disperses this income via partners into third world countries primarily, to micro businesses. The mom or the woman, who's wanting to buy a cow so that or a calf and rear it so she can produce milk and sell it. The mechanic who requires a $500 loan to be able to fix up his car. And obviously, by the banks in these countries don't have the right structures. These guys have no credit ratings to be able to work with the banks. So what Kiva obviously does, it provides an alternative source of income right down to the people who need it the most. Of course, the interest rates on these loans are very, very high, way higher than what banks typically would charge. So the profitable aspect of the business is actually, Kiva is actually a very profitable, organization. Nonetheless, the kind of good that it does, it helps break the poverty cycle that you talk about. And for me, I think this stigma whereby we always think of social entrepreneurship as charitable work, I think that's something that is still not quite there yet here in Asia. But obviously, if we can rethink that, we can think profitability is a big part of it. We can think sustainability as a big part of it. Then I think there's lots of people to be helped.
I think. KV, yeah.
I agree. I think you asked me how. There are two things in my mind after listening to Wai Hong. I think it's interesting what you said. Number one, I think to answer the question, Vienna, I think it's a quite misunderstood term. But on the other hand, I'm seeing, from my experience, individuals and smaller groups coming up with really, really interesting ideas and really interesting concepts that breaks boundaries of how business and charity is being done. And I think it's worthwhile, to note that I think there is starting to be some pretty vibrant discourse in this area. I think the younger generation are seriously rethinking a lot of things that they assume, taken for granted, and they're starting to question the structures that they were brought up in. And I think this is an interesting discussion. I attended a social enterprise seminar recently, and I was very kind of happy to hear people talk about, let's look at social structures. Let's not talk about economic system. Let's look at something beyond CSR. There's a lot of money in CSR, but what can we do with the money? Think that. So these are positive developments, and I think Southeast Asia, ASEAN would be an interesting bit because there's a huge disparity, income disparity across the region, and there are enough people with good hearts to go around and help one another. I think we need to that. That's the first point I want to say. And secondly is the examples that Wai Hong is given on Kiva. I mean, I've been following Kiva. It's a really interesting company, and for them to be profitable in this environment, I think we give them hands off to them. It's pretty good. But the interesting thing that I want to share is that Kiva works in an environment that is, we can say, mainstream economics, and it's cost of money. If you give up less money, it costs more, right? It's like bulk buying, right? So that's why you have interest rates that are really, really high, and not many people have succeeded in this level of microfinancing and micro business, right? I think when I want to come back to the point I talked about earlier about alternative economics, when you embark on social entrepreneurship and talk about economics, it is not a totally, or should not be viewed as a totally different path of conventional economics. It has to be complementary. Finding the complementary point is something that we need to explore together. If we can get social entrepreneurs to come together to explore this, what is good in the current system, and how can we, enhance on that and make use of it. We can't change the system, and we can't walk away from it. You have to own a car. You don't own a car, somebody has to own a car to get you around. And you immediately become part of this whole economic structure. So some deeper think through and discourse needs to continue at this philosophical level, I believe.
I think what KV is doing here is really challenging us to rethink everything, especially talking about how we view economic system, what could be more important than that, what is the ultimate outcome of that, all these concepts, which I think is very crucial, because we tend to be stuck into this societal, well, some would call it rat race, but really just blindly, without thinking or rethinking everything and questioning everything. And I think that all this session of talking about exploring GDP and beyond that is very important. In fact, personally, I think the concept of gross national happiness is something that is very interesting, in that it even challenges the consumerist culture that we have, which is why some of them who are arguing against gross national happiness is saying that maybe this is a little like spiritual base, is anti-consumerist, and we know that in our research that high culture has always flourished in eras of lively commerce, from 5th century Greece to Song China, Renaissance Italy, down to Dutch Golden Age. So to counter all this though, Sun, why do you think that maybe alternative economics or the concept of G&H has an edge over consumerist culture?
I think let's just look at it this way. This is my understanding. The approach of GNH is not a matter of us versus them. It's not a matter of my model of GNH is better than your GDP model measurement.
Okay.
I don't think it's like that, and I don't think it needs to be viewed like that. I think what the GNH offers is a level of thinking within the economic and social structure that drives this world. And that's the point I'm driving at. We need to rethink the environment we are in, right? It is so easy to say, let's get out of this system. We don't want it. It's impossible. There's no way at all. You need funds, you go to raise money from philanthropists. Where do they make their money from? This dependent coexistence is necessary and has to be acknowledged. I think GNH brings an interesting point to the economic structure. It questions values. If you have gone through the GNH questionnaire, how Bhutan does it is that they have this GNH questionnaire. If there's a project that is going to be implemented, for example, a new highway across Bhutan into India or something like that, then the relevant ministry and the departments in government departments in Bhutan, they have to go through and complete this GNH questionnaire. At the end of the GNH questionnaire, there will be a kind of evaluation that says, yes, you meet the GNH requirement, or no, you don't. If you meet, yes, it's a project they can consider developing. If you don't, now go back to the drawing board, redo a plan that meets the GNH criteria. And I think that's really interesting. You start to rethink projects, businesses, everything else in a different light.
I have an interesting.
So
I have a question though about this practice. I mean, if the sole measure here is happiness, where is the room for people then to make decisions that are not based on short-term happiness, but on the long-term well-being of the community? I mean, like, if every project is measured against a GNH questionnaire, obviously, say building a highway across a bunch of villages, if there is a long-term benefit to the community as a whole, is that being taken into consideration when you use a metric like GNH for these kind of things? I don't know. Do you have an opinion on that, KV?
Yeah, I do. I do have an opinion, and I must state first, it's an opinion. I'm not an expert in GNH.
Sure.
I know enough to people there and understand the approach. Yes, I think there is a long-term measurement. There's a balance between what the highway can bring, in terms of economic development, and that is considered. But there are also areas to consider. GNH looks also at a few other elements. It looks at cultural and social sustainability, right? So it does take that into consideration and ask pertinent questions. Where is the balance? You know, I mean, you have heard in other countries, people bulldoze the race through because it's for economic development period, right? And so I think that what GNH has done is that hang on, let's stop, let's think. Yes, economic, but what's the cost? What will we lose? What can we sustain? I think that's interesting. That's interesting thinking, you know, and I really enjoy, you know, appreciate that level of thinking, because in terms of social entrepreneurship, the level of the individual and the level of small businesses, I think that thinking needs to come down. We need to think, yes, we need to hit a certain level of profit to sustain the organization, for example. Then what else is there? Are people happy? Are people destroying their lives? Are they working themselves to death? Do they work so much that the parents or the families don't see them? How do we balance this? So these are questions that need to be asked, and usually it's not. In our economic environment, profit is above all, you know. So finding the balance is really, in my opinion, what social enterprise is all about. How do we find that balance, you know?
And allow me to fill in some details of how GNH is measured. It is actually based on not just the kind of just happiness, but rather it's measured across 7 different areas. 1 being the economic wellness, 2 being the environmental wellness, 3 being the physical wellness, and then there's the mental wellness, workplace wellness, social wellness, and political wellness. So I'll say that, you know, it is not just like, you know, a simple questionnaire of how happy you are, you know. So, but aside from that though, KV, do you have some insights on, you know, is this perspective of viewing the economy or country success growing in Southeast Asia?
You know, I'm not an economist, and this is a very challenging question. Conventionally, I think everybody's looking at
Sorry, everyone is still
GDP.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, we are thinking in that line, and every country that I know that I visited in ASEAN thinks along that line. And what is our GDP? What is our income? You know, and the FDI. These are all the measurements. I think it is necessary. If you visit countries like Laos, you know, they're one of the poorest countries in ASEAN, right? They're struggling to figure that out. Conventional economics tell them to buy more, to build more, to get more, to buy more, right? And you know, I kind of question that. I kind of look at what they have. You know, I visit the country almost every month, you know, for the last couple of years. And it's sad to see some of the cultures starting to erode, the values that hold them together start to erode. So how do we... That's the thinking that I think nations need to look at. And we need to... I think social entrepreneurs, if we all come together and become a real force, we can influence this thinking in the governments.
So
and you know, at some point in time, I hope to achieve that. Yeah, I mean, X, Y, Z, whatever. You know, maybe all combined.
Infinite.
The older folks from the 1990s, like me, come back around.
Yeah, I think we should never understate the importance of the wisdom of the generations before. I think that's something that the Gen Ys, especially, I would say, I'm right smack in the middle of Gen Y. I think I will speak on a lot of Gen Y's behalf that we don't actually understand the value of learning from the generations before. I think that's something we try to do things a lot of the time on purely our energy and our so-called optimism and
or I should say, like, we know tech better and we know this century better.
Google. I mean, sorry, but I'm just kidding here. But it's just I think it's a very real problem.
Yeah, but KV, you were talking about Laos.
No, I think that this is an interesting point. a lot of Gen X, perhaps, I'm losing trust of which Gen, whoever it is, but I think the generation tend to react, and that's one of my biggest concerns with the younger generation. They tend to react against the older generation, thinking that they know, right? They know more. Right? I don't doubt their wisdom. And I really appreciate their energies and their new way of thinking. I think the reaction is quite strong, and the older generation sometimes react to that reaction. So that creates a gap in wisdom. Wahong brought out an interesting point. We need to come together. We need to put our heads together, because economic development, social entrepreneurship is not one thing. It's a process of change. I think we need to appreciate that it is a process. And that process means we need to understand what's happened in the past. We need to appreciate together what will go on, into the future, because whatever we do is a result of the past.
Yes.
We cannot discount that. So yeah, that's an interesting point. If we can bring people together, that would be fantastic, right? And in the context of social entrepreneurship, social enterprise, I think developing mentoring programs or apprenticeship programs would be a very interesting way to share knowledge, to share wisdom, right? Across generations.
And I think that I want to add a little about Laos, and especially in the context of Southeast Asia, where a lot of FDI is coming in, and especially at this very crucial period. I think if we do not have a strong vision of what we want Southeast Asia to be, it will just be like another region in the world, in the industrial economy and whatnot. And in fact, I think one very important thing that came out from NASA just like 2 days ago, talking about how we are at a global brink of collapse if we continue to industrialize this way, which I thought was, I haven't looked into the report in detail, but it's just very interesting, coming out on the same day as the International Day of Happiness as well. So, but let's have a short break now, and then when we come back from the break, we'll talk a little about how we can participate in this kind of movement of social entrepreneurship and alternative economics. Hello, welcome back to the dialogue session. Hi KV and Wai Hong again.
Hey.
So now let's talk about KV. Do you know of any initiatives or movers who is moving this kind of alternative thinking behind economy in the region?
Yes, I do. In fact, some of the people do inspire me to think a bit more. I can't really name names. There are quite a number of people. I think the thinking is happening now. I have friends from Cambodia who are thinking and discussing about this, who keep in touch with me. I have friends in Indonesia who are really, really keen to explore what alternatives are there. In Indonesia, you have a very small percentage of the people holding 80 to 90% of the wealth of the country. And people are starting to question that. Right? I have friends in Thailand, in Siam, who are really seriously rethinking, social, economic, political approaches to have a better life, in the backdrop of what's happening in Bangkok. So yes, I think it's becoming a pretty vibrant space. It's not a huge space. I think the thinking is there. There are lots of discussions and dialogues, happening, and I think it's good. Right? I mean, it's heartening to hear Wai Hong talk about his experience, and this is one very good example that we are thinking about this, and there's no right and no wrong. We are thinking, we're going through a process, and that's critical, in my opinion.
Right. How can we, as like everyday citizens, participate and support in this? Like, whether it's a social entrepreneurship or the larger thinking of a more well economy, alternative economics, G&H.
I think I think let's start with the starting point of most people.
Right.
The starting point of most people is charity. It's so easy to take to open your wallet, take out 10 ringgit, 100 ringgit, or if you have more money, put 1,000 ringgit out and give it to a fund or a charity or someone that you know and then walk away. I think if we can find a way to reach out to them to say that, look, can we do something beyond that? Right? One of the things that I'm trying to do is, for example, let's think about places that raise a lot of money, right, for charity purposes, right? Religious organizations raise tons and tons of money to things and institutions. I approached some of them and said, look, estimate that they raise about 50, 100 million ringgit every year to build buildings and get the institutions going. I said, and I'm in the process of talking to them and say, look, don't you just channel 10% of what you collect every year into a fund that builds sustainable economic initiatives that seriously look at structural changes. And I think people are and they're starting to appreciate it. It's not it's there. And I'm not the only one. There are people who are doing that I know of. Right?
I think one of the biggest
so
challenges
it requires some thinking, a different approach to think, right?
Yeah, I think just exactly on what you were finishing off, actually I was saying that one of the biggest challenges when it comes to our thinking is that we don't actually have a very good vision for what it could look like to live sustainably. I mean, you talk about the movers and shapers and the thinkers in the region. One person comes to mind is Chandran Nair from the Global Institute for Tomorrow, and he talks largely about how, for example, in China, if China continues to go down the trajectory of trying to be like the US, what we will end up is 1.4 billion American-like people, which is very terrible. I mean, the rate of the consumption of an average American, if China replicates that, we will not be able to live sustainably as a world. And so I think the problem, though, is that while he puts forward this kind of idea that if we all want to become like the consumeristic, American, then we wouldn't have a sustainable Earth. But then, for me, the question is, do we have then a vision, a picture of what it looks like then to actually live sustainably? And for me, I think at this stage, we don't have enough artists, we don't have enough creative people, we don't have enough dreamers and thinkers who are actually helping us to think through and paint a picture of what that could look like. What does it look like to live non-consumeristically, but actually be able to have happy, meaningful lives at the same time? I think we're lacking vision in that regard. So when we do come and try to raise money, and we do come and talk about actually solving this problem, the thing is that we can see the problem very clearly. We just don't have a vision of what it could, where we could take the world to. And I think this is vital, considering how large Asia is in terms of, how much we strive for so-called economic development. Because I think to a certain degree we are still at the bottom of Maslow's chains of, hierarchy of needs. And so there's a lot of us don't ask that question of meaning. A lot of us don't ask that question of self-actualization, all that stuff, because we're still struggling with the basic things. We're still struggling with arsenic poisoning. We're still struggling with all these issues. But we must be bigger, because we can't afford to climb right to the top and then ask these questions, because we will not have a sustainable world when we get there.
I think one of the quotes that I think is quite inspiring, coming from the guys who is coming out with the Happy Planet Index, is that they say that a society that achieves well-being now but consumes so much that the same resources are not available for future generations can hardly be considered successful at all.
Yeah, I will pick up the point that Wahong mentioned. I think it is a very interesting and it's a very important point you brought up, because to sell something to people to change their minds, you need to sell them a vision, right? And I think one of the biggest challenges, I fully agree with you, is how how do we sell this vision, you know? I don't need a big car, I need a small car. I don't need a big house, I need a simple house. You know, it runs totally contradictory to what's happening. Yeah, but it has to, right? But I think that the point I want to raise is that I don't think we can really change everyone in the world. I think if back to your original question, Vienna, you know, how do we get people to adapt this? I think it's small steps, small changes, and let the influence flow, right? My approach is starting with young kids, right? Okay, you may not be. I'm not sure if you're aware, you know, whether Vienna has read it in my profile, so that I'm also, you know, I'm a homeschooling parent, and I advocate an alternative and different approach to homeschool, to education. Over the last couple of years, we thought about the idea of education, and we have started a small community-based school, you know, if you can write the word school, community-based learning center in Subang. And the kids go through the learning process in a totally different environment where the ideas we talked about, you know, the value of happiness over the value of economic success is more important. We need to balance. Is all being played out and shared with the students there, and the parents that get in touch with us, you know, see that difference, and their lives begin to change. Right? What we are really trying to do is we are trying to change life, and it's a very painstaking, slow process. We go down to the individual. There's no blanket way of saying, okay, let's all do this. We all change our lives. You know, I think we have to start small. We be very realistic and let the idea grow. And I'm also mindful that as we create these alternatives, there's always this bigger group of people who don't necessarily agree, right? And we need to coexist for now, right? And continue sharing this. I'm not a guru type person. Hey, go out there and convert everyone that you see.
Dominate the world.
It's going to be difficult. Yeah, dominate the world. Well, some years ago I thought I could do that, but I realized it didn't work.
KV soon counts.
That's why I'm older and hopefully a little wiser.
We'll try on your behalf. Meanwhile, yes, sorry, continue.
I think, if you can start making meaningful individual changes and let life affect life. And back to the original point I started, I think social entrepreneurship is bringing the goodness in us out, right? It's not the outside forces telling us this is good for you, right? And once you start to begin to see this, I think meaningful changes will come, at least within the micro community that we live with, you know, our families, our neighbors, you know, our children. We allow that to grow, right? So these are just my thoughts, and I think I don't think you should stop there. I think it should be constantly being questioned and allow a lively discourse to challenge this thinking, right?
And I personally think that one of the key points that you guys brought up about how instead of antagonizing each other, like the different generations, we could instead be working together and synergizing our efforts and having a mentor relationship, or even like doing something together in light of this vision together. And also, maybe we can have some last message from KV and also Wai Hong about what you want the listeners, if there's anything you want them to know. Yeah, the message. KV, shall we?
Every now and then, take a walk in the park or near nature.
Near where? Nature. Okay.
Nature. Okay. Every now and then, hold hands. If you can, hold hands with someone you love. Take a deep breath. Really deep breath. and appreciate the surrounding that you have, and have a good look at ourselves. I think that's where it all begins. Don't forget that. You know?
Wow, such words of wisdom.
Hard to beat.
Hopefully it was wisdom and not anything else.
I think I really just want to remind everyone that it is really not about, you talk up our accolades and everything, but it's really not about that. It is really about taking the next step. And if each of us would take the next step in the direction of, I guess, reflecting on what we have, reflecting on what we have to give, just simply adding value to our neighbors. I think we can take small steps together. That's how we will move forward together.
And if you're interested in taking steps together with us, you can definitely continue the conversation with KV at spiritofendeavour.org and with Wai Hong at starhub.com. So thank you very much to both of you for being with us today. I think that has been a really great session. It gives me a lot of thinking point. Yeah. So we'll see you in the next ASEAN Breakfast Call. Have a great day.